The male gaze and I sat down for dinner. I told him I hated him with the same mouth I applied lipstick on an hour prior. I wanted him to take me seriously, and I knew with a dolled-up face he'd at least pretend to listen. I picked my outfit out especially for this occasion. I couldn't show too much skin or he'd be too distracted to hear. But I wore something fitting. He might have run away if he couldn't see I had a skinny figure. And I hate to say it, but truthfully, I wanted him to think I was pretty, as if I had to choose between objectification and being ugly. I told him I hated the way he looked me up and down late at night. I told him I hated how, because of him, I spend hours every morning making sure I look right. I told him I hated when he took over the eyes of a good guy, how he belittles the men who refuse to let him in. I told him I hated the way he wasn't looking at my eyes, only looking up and down, only always checking me out. He laughed. He told me he'd stop. He told me I'd be back again with more lipstick on my mouth. The next day, no one dared pass me a glance. I even wore a low-cut shirt. I even wore skimpy pants. I hated the male gaze, I really did. But I hated the idea that I was ugly even more, for he made me believe my vanity was all I was good for. And I associated him with beauty for so long, I needed him to make me feel confident, but I also needed to prove he was wrong. So I asked him to dinner again. I wanted to understand. And I wore the same clothes I wore to bed the night before. My face was bare, my hair was a mess. And I told him I hated how I will first be evaluated as hot or ugly. And I told him how I wished beauty was its own category. And I told him I hated how I will always be evaluated as pretty or smart. And I told him how I wished beauty could be appreciated without his hungry eyes corrupting the art. And I told him I hated how I will always be evaluated as ugly or kind. And I told him how I wished he objectified my heart and my mind. I looked up and he was dozing off. I suppose looking disheveled was too much of a turn-off. He didn't care to listen. He didn't care at all. And as I stood up, I felt his eyes watching me from behind, and he no longer made me feel pretty. And I got back in my car, and I took out my lipstick from my purse. And I couldn't decide what to do. If I put it on, if I throw it away, no matter what, I always lose.